Okay, so God's a person. He can be in the same room with you. All right, this is what we're discussing. God's a person. He can be in the same room with you. This might be a new concept for people. It's a tiny little nugget. God is a person. The chairs that you are sitting in this actual space, he could enter into this space locally and interact with you. It's a small detail, but most people who have a kind of Christian background, they have invented theology that this just can't be true. It can't happen. Here's one example. It's the idea that God is everywhere. We do have texts like this in Psalm 139. There's nowhere you could escape him. Okay. But he makes a distinction between his reach and his face, his presence, his locality. So do you have any kind of thoughts about that? Do you have any testimony or example of anybody or even yourself that that's a weird idea that God could talk to me right now in the room? This is low key. So if we like it, we'll keep it. And if we don't like it, we can set it to private. I don't care.
Do you have any?
Like any questions? Well, my first question that comes to mind is like, if God is a person, right?
Yeah.
He is a person.
Sure.
Sometimes people don't want to be around other people.
Yes.
Right? So can there ever be a time, where God doesn't want to be around?
Where God doesn't want to be around?
Yeah.
That is such a good question. That's why I'm making these videos with you. Is there a time that God doesn't want to be around? No. There isn't. That's a really great question. There are a lot of different reasons people don't want to share the same space. Typically weakness is part of it. So sometimes people, they feel depleted, they feel weak. It's almost like, and it starts to get to the place of having a need. God's not tired out by people. He's not worn out by them. He is also, I think the more important way to say this, God is love. God is love. And love, the kind of love that God is a deeply loyal, powerful love. He always desires to share space with his people that are made in his image. He never sleeps. He never gets hungry. He never gets tired. So while I am saying something that's strange, like he could come into the room, he is coming into the room as Yahweh, or as God, okay? He's not coming into the room as one of us. Now, the name of God, Yahweh, okay, that's just to reconstruct. Yeshua comes to us. He does actually know what it means to share in our humanity. His start was very strange. So the glory of Yahweh overshadows Mary, and this thing is formed in Mary. It is the glory of Yahweh tabernacling among us. It's Yeshua. But he ate and slept and got tired and pooped and did everything that we do. Then he was murdered. When he was raised up, he still had that transformation to take place. And that was actually the ascension. When he ascended, he became, Paul said, a life-giving spirit. He is a man, he is a human, but he's a life-giving spirit. So he is like Yahweh in that way. Yahweh's called Yahweh be thought of as a life-giving spirit. So even though Yeshua understands what it means to share in our humanity, whatever, he too doesn't get tired, doesn't get weary, doesn't need space, that kind of thing. I don't know. Does that raise any other questions? Is there a different way that could be said, do you think, or does it bring up any other ideas?
I guess, how do you know that he is in the room?
There you go. That's a great question. How do I know that he's in the room? See, these are really great practical questions, and I'm glad we're doing this, actually. So how would I know that God's in the room? How do I know that God's in the room? Maybe I would say that there are things that so we see, our eyes see because of light, electromagnetic radiation, but we don't see all of light. It's a spectrum. We can't see ultraviolet light, for example. We don't have the hardware to perceive it, right? Really the only way to know if what I'm about to say is true or not is to test it. But humans are hardware that are made to interact with God, particularly the part of us that would be called the conscience in Scripture, this inner man. So we have hardware that is built to detect it. So how would I know it's in the room? It'd be like saying, well, how do I know that the light's on? Open your eyes, right? That seems like a very simple answer, but you'll be able to detect it because he will make himself known to you. And then there are different faculties, right? Like you can, it depends on how much of your inner person, the innermost person is being contacted by God. Sometimes the more exterior parts of you, your emotions, whatever, they can be impacted by him being present. Sometimes your physical can literally be impacted by him being present. It's like this can happen to people who are not even his friends. He can put fear into people. So, yeah. We're making a video.
So I do have a question. If you like, so if you meet Jesus, he's a person in the room. There is nothing. Basically, this idea: there is nothing we can do, no sin, no evil that will make him like be far from us. That his love can't cover. But so like, does he ever want to be away from us? That's her question.
Does he ever want to be? That's a different question.
No.
What
was your question again?
You're asking a great question, by the way. Yeah. Would he have a reason to leave? Is how I'm hearing you, Ellie. And she was saying, he's a person, and sometimes people want to be alone. Does he ever want to leave? That's how I heard her.
Yeah.
And yours
no.
Does he have a reason to leave? Is a good question.
No, I don't.
That's also a good question.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
I don't know.
Yeah. Then the reason why I'm asking that question is because, Noah and the flood. It says that Yahweh regretted.
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, well, he doesn't leave us.
Uh-huh.
Like, I know that.
Sure.
Does he ever want to leave us?
No.
But he does have emotions.
He regretted that he created.
That's what I'm saying.
It wasn't that he wanted to leave. And actually, if you read that part of the Torah carefully, the shift between Elohim to Yahweh, the titles, the names, okay? He's actually interacting with Noah. He's interacting with Noah in person, like locally in his face. When he gives the commands to build the boat, this kind of thing, he reveals himself to him. And in keeping with the rest of the Torah, when he establishes testimony on how bad things are, he comes down and he brings 2 witnesses from heaven with him. So even there, he is showing up locally and his heart's being filled with pain. So those two aren't separate ideas, or those aren't mutually exclusive ideas. Like he can both be local and his heart be filled with regret. Yeah. And he actually doesn't establish the matter. The Torah presents Yahweh as so humble that he keeps this bedrock part of the Torah himself that he doesn't establish. As even when he is judged, when he comes to judge, he doesn't even use this weird thing called omniscience or whatever. He shows up to judge locally, to inspect, to investigate. So yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that if we make...
We're already at 8 minutes, by the way, so this is how fast.
I'm sorry.
No, there's no sorry.
Oh,
it just happens. No, I mean, this is okay. This is it's maybe this video will bless somebody or be helpful, but this is kind of like, I think of these videos as us like, kind of like brainstorming. These are brainstorming videos, and we're going to say, okay, well, what kind of questions can people have? And we can take from that and dice it up into things that are more, bite-sized. Is there anything else on this topic before we shut off this video? The idea that God would be in the room. I do think I would touch something because I
can take it to the next level, but that could be a new video.
Sure. The thing I would say is, does God have a reason to not share space with us?
Yeah.
Yes, he does have reasons to not share space.
Okay.
And this is a kind of a claim. This is helpful. God's a person. You're a person too. What is it? How did you get here, though? How did your personhood start? What was the start? What's the story? Okay. In other words, I'm going to make a claim. To be a person, according to the Torah, according to scriptures, to be a person is to be in a story, an ongoing story. Okay. It didn't start with you. the story of God and humanity goes back very far. And a shorthand way to say it is Genesis 3, Genesis 6, Genesis 11. The bad stuff happens, and so God's not with people anymore. Okay, because our fathers, our forefathers, our ancestors rejected him in his presence, and he honored their decision because he's not a rapist. I want to say that a lot about God, because one of the things that I want us to overturn that you're going to run into is you're going to run into the problem of people have presented God in particular ways for the last 1,000 years or so, and some of the things we're saying about God are repulsive to them, but some of the things they say to people about God are just as repulsive. For example, that God, this is a very popular belief in America. It's America. I think Calvinism's waned to a degree, but at least in the last 15, 20 years, very, very popular idea that Christians would believe that they would believe that God literally decides everything that happens. There are Christians who believe that God decides every single thing that happens. So trying to make sense out of the story, as I said, all people are part of the story, trying to make sense of that story, you get very wonky readings. God honors our choices. He made us in his image. We have the ability to create. See, this is great. This is stuff. This could be broken. This video could be broken into 20 videos.
Yeah.
But God, when God made people in his image, he gave them the right and the dignity and the authority to image him and create life in their own image. That's part of being an image bearer, is to be able to create life in your own image and do with it what you want. When our ancestors decided, we reject your person, we reject your presence, we reject your locality, he honored their choice. And he honored their choice to, after rejecting him, to let them continue raising up children in whatever worldview, whatever lies, whatever, like, okay? So I kind of wondered, and I forgot, a point I was going to make, so whatever. This is great. I love this because it's helpful for us to just throw it up there and see, okay, what can we do?
Can I ask one question?
Always.
Another question?
Yeah, please.
So Yeshua will never want to not be around you, but Yeshua will honor your choice if you want to reject him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the only reason why he would not be around you.
Yes.
Is to honor your
and choice is a complicated thing, because when you say your choice, I could be but English is a great language to have this discussion in, because I could say, when you say your, do you mean your second person plural, like all of your choices? Or just your individual choice? Because one of the reasons that entire subsets of people don't hear from them is because of the decisions of forebears, the generations that came before. We literally have a terrifying, fearful, dignified right as humans to create children in our own image. And our decisions and our choices will literally shift the direction of their life. And it can shift it in ways that are irreversible. That's a real choice. These are real choices. So when you say it's only the conscience's choice, not necessarily, because they're in a long chain of a story of people making choices. You could be honoring the choice of a grandfather. This is very helpful. I'm glad you brought this up, because this comes down to the idea that God is lopsided. Okay, and he's lopsided in the favor of the weak. He's lopsided in the favor of people who suck. So when God's loyal love is expanded on, spoken of, he says he keeps loyal love. He guards, so he ferociously guards loyal love for 1,000 generations for one person who loves him and keeps his commandments. Okay, and actually it's not even 1,000; it's thousands, or we'll just say 1,000. Okay, here's what that means. For one Abraham, he will tenaciously pursue. Okay, he will pursue 1,000 generations of douchebags. For one Abraham, that's really all it takes. But think of the opposite of an Abraham. Think of a Cain. What happens to what kind of world will they create? what kind of generations would they produce, that kind of thing. But it's also possible that one of Cain's own children, there could be, all it could take is just one, all it could take is one that says, I want to, like, God just starts a relationship. This is helpful to say at this point too. This is going to be a lot. I think we should cut this off soon because it's going to be a lot to parse through, and we can just make another video right after. I don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
But God is actually trying to reclaim the world at this pace. God's trying to reclaim humanity, Adam, at this pace, one conscience at a time. That's the pace. Now, he's like a supercomputer that can run separate nodes at the same time. He can interact with your conscience the same that he interacts with other ones, right? But what I mean by this is, it is really one story at a time and one conscience at a time, this back and forth that causes it to spread. And there are some epochs, some ages where you can count the people he's interacting with the most directly on one hand. But then also there's ways that even in the Torah, that somehow he's interacting with people that it's strange. It's like this last week's Torah reading. Yitro, Jethro, he's a high priest. He offers sacrifices to God and sees and eats with the elders of Israel in front of God's face, and God receives the sacrifices. He has some kind of relationship with God that the Torah tells us nothing about. He's a Midianite. He has no stake in Abraham and no stake in Israel. How? What's that look like? We don't know. We know that God goes slumming. He does strange things. He interacts with people. This huge sweeping story is a big part of, we do know that we're supposed to locate ourselves within the map of Abraham's story. There was a weird promise made to him. He'll be the father of many nations. Okay. So we can say, well, when I'm mapping myself out, it might be interesting and a weird thing that's going on with Jethro in that time. But when I put myself on the map, I need to like locate myself on the map of Abraham's family. There's so many parts of it. All right, well, that's good for now. 17 minutes in, we're gonna do 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Bless you guys. The title doesn't necessarily match what we talked about. See you later.